Chapter 1. Who Do We Serve? My wife and I are two of the tens of millions of people who became hooked on the TV series Downton Abbey. We were fascinated by the lives of the aristocratic Crawley family and their domestic servants on their fictional country estate in early 20th century Britain. We enjoyed it so much that we even became members of the National Trust. For a working-class lad born into a two-up, two-down house in a deprived area of Liverpool in the 1970s, my experience, like most people's, is a million miles away from the aristocratic families who used to reside in these grand mansions. But I confess that I have said to my wife, Sian, on many occasions, that I think I could just about have handled that life. I especially think this on day trips to country houses as we pass through grand studies, enormous living rooms and vast grounds. The other area of these households that fascinates me is what was known as the downstairs. The life of these old aristocratic homes was kept going by the service of those who lived and worked downstairs: the butlers, footmen, ladies' maids, cooks and kitchen hands. These roles were taken up by local people who lived within the house and served the families that employed them. It wasn't viewed as casual employment, but as a dedication of their lives to service, and, hopefully, if the family were kind, a dedication to that particular family. To do the best job, these staff had to know exactly who they were serving, by learning the ins and outs of the master's and mistress's habits, likes, dislikes, and temperaments. They also needed to serve each other through their different roles downstairs. The cook still needed to prepare staff meals, and the maids still needed to lay the fires for the staff. And outside of the household, they were fully aware that they represented that family to the surrounding towns and villages that relied on the success of the house. They were serving their master, each other, and the local community. Like the servants in these grand houses, as Christians we are called to serve. One way of describing what happens when someone becomes a Christian is to say that they have turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God and to wait for His Son from heaven. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verses 9 through 10. The word servant doesn't fully describe who we are as Christians, but it is part of who we are as Christians. And just as in those country houses, when it comes to our service, who we are serving matters more than what we are doing in our serving. In other words, we need to know first and foremost exactly who it is we are serving. Really understanding this will be the foundation that determines why and how we serve, and will give purpose and meaning to our lives. We serve God. Genesis chapter 1 declares that we have been made in the image of God. God's plan and desire in His design was for humanity to display His image here on earth. As people walked, worked, played, interacted, engaged in relationships, had children, multiplying more image bearers, and created culture, His glory would increase. God gave humans everything we needed to represent and serve Him fully. We were to live a life of joyful service with our Master walking beside us, not with Him living upstairs and us living downstairs, but with God's presence right in our midst, with Him being glorified in our service. But the desire to be served and the desire for self-glory captured the affections of the first humans. As a result of their disobedience to God's word, sin entered the world, and the human image of God was distorted. Our intentions became selfish, and we lost sight of the God whom the first humans had joyfully served, and we became afraid of Him. Humanity was cast out of His life-giving presence, with death becoming our ultimate destiny. This is the tragedy recounted in Genesis chapter 3.